Pipsqueaks of all nations. Hello again and welcome to Stunts Pro Academy. I'm Overdrive, I'm the person who found and traveled to the roof of the stunts world, and today I'll be your driving instructor. For this episode I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the format established so far. In the first 3 episodes I feel like we covered the 3 big basic parts of driving and stunts, and now it's time to go into a bit more detail. And today we're going to talk about what you do when you encounter the most disliked track element in the game. The cork up down. Normally when I say cork I mean this thing, but today I don't. Today I mean this thing. This is the cork up down. That's how the game calls it, and I haven't really found a better term for it. Highway off ramp? Anyway, if you drive it as intended, it's a really slow element to drive. It takes a lot of speed out of your race, and for this reason a lot of people don't like it. Yet it keeps coming up in competition. And that's because over the years players have developed a few ways to deal with this obstacle, and it can be a nice challenge to find out which of those ways fits into the current track and how to perform it. As you can see, today I'm not using a legendary competition track, rather I'm making a quick custom track for this lesson. Normally I work on tracks using external editors developed by community members, like Bliss by Cass, but for a track like this the in-game editor works fine. For the hidden terrain editor, press Shift and F1. So that's Shift and F1, or maybe Shift Fn F1 on some modern computers, and then you can add that little hill. To practice today's lesson, just copy what I do here. We have a start-finish, some straight road, some corners and bank corners, and of course, the cork up-down. The car I'm using today is really just the car I feel like. It's my go-to car for trying out a new track or anything, the BMW M3. It's no coincidence that this is my go-to car, because this is one of the cars I made myself. It came in a DTM themed pack with a Mercedes and an Audi. All 3 cars were stealth after DTM cars from the early 90s. These cars are faster than the real things. They more closely resemble plus or minus 2018 DTM cars in performance. But you know, they feel right. We'll be driving this BMW with replay handling and we'll be going off-road. So, driving time. Practice your shifting up and try to get the speed ups on the up ramp and on the off ramp. You can replay handle this to get it. I'm resisting the temptation for now because I really want to get to here. Bam, just as planned. So this is the cork up down, and the way it's intended to be driven is like this. Just slow down, use both your gears and your brake for this, and then crawl down the hill. So that's one way to do it. That's the slowest way. The second way we can do it, we also need to slow down for that, but we can abuse the collision model of the game. And it looks like this. Wow, that went super well. The BMW is kind of a short car, and short cars have a few peculiar properties. Their jump length is shorter, they're very nimble in corners, and they can be a bit better at phasing through those objects that can be phased through. To get this trick you want to be going pretty slow, and you want to be steering in the same direction that the road is going. So in this case we're going to the right a bit, and that helps us sneak between the panels of the bridge. Another thing we can do is just drive around the entire obstacle. Driving on the grass is slow, but not always as slow as driving down the cork up down. Jumping always helps here, because as long as you're in the air, you're not slowing down. And that way you can just avoid the obstacle. Can be worth considering. Now we have a special variation on this called the invisibridge.
Impossible. Nobody can jump this.
Yes. Exactly like that. So the way you do this, you want to jump off the bridge, but you want to just miss it. End up just next to the bridge. It's gonna take a few attempts. Don't worry. With the magic of editing, it's a bit faster than it would be for you. And when we get it, we find a little invisible platform. Just wide enough for us to drive our car down, and then we fall off on the other side. You see we're in a bit of a messy position. We're not quite where we want to be on the road. This is giving us some trouble with finishing the corner. Just a bit of trouble, but there's something we can do about that. The invisible platform follows the bridge itself. So when the bridge veers off to the right, we steer to the right too, and we get a nicer exit. And that is how you do invisibridge. So next up, I spend a little bit of time trying to finish the course. Having some trouble again. Not my finest corner ever. I did actually try to slow down during the invisibridge, so that you have a better entry speed. And I did get a better corner, but I didn't get a better total time. We had a lot of speed during the invisibridge trick. The longer we keep that speed, the faster we finish in this case. And my finishing time here is going to be 30.95 seconds. Let's call it 31. And that will be the challenge for today. So the regular assignment is practice all the ways to get down a cork up down. And the bonus assignment is use an invisibridge to beat 31 seconds. In the BMW with replay handling. Now, if you kids in the back seat can't be nice to each other, I'm going to turn this car around. Because we talked about the situation where you come in from the top of a cork up down. But what if you come in from the bottom? Well, often you are condemned to driving up the slow way. But there is an interesting option. When we want to go around, we can use the same invisible platform that we were on the top to get a little jump. This is good because we spend less time on the grass and we slow down less. But a jump is also a speed up, and that means that in some cases you might even be able to achieve power gear by going around the cork up down. Also note that skipping this element, either from above or below, does not give penalty time, because we're still passing over the tiles of the track element, and that's the only thing the game checks for. Now, what I'm trying to show you here is an interesting little thing that might help explain how we face through the wall at the top there. You see, Stunts doesn't check the collision of these walls with the entire car. It only checks for the wheel positions. So you see I can drive up here with the wheel on either side of the barrier and my car is fine. I just have to find a way to get back off, and that's why this trick is usually useless. But you can do it even from the top. You can jump 2 wheels onto the invisibridge and 2 wheels onto the regular bridge. You're just stuck like that, unless you manage to phase out of it. Now, why are these platforms even here? It's related to the reason that chicanes are fast grass. When programming the game, they couldn't figure out the exact mathematical way to describe this shape, which would have led to a situation where cars on the inside of the barrier were just falling through the floor. To prevent that, the floor of the physical model was extended to outside of the visual model, which left us with the invisibridge. By the way, can you viewers give me some comments on this video? I'd like to have some notes on what I'm doing that you like and don't like. Maybe I should just go full YouTuber and say, if I get 10 comments, I'll make another episode. I mean, I'll make it anyway, but I'd like 10 comments. As I was saying though, the invisibridge is here because of the shape of the cork up down. It does not extend to other bridge parts. A ramp up or a tile connecting the cork up down to a hill does not have the invisibridge, which is why you have to jump your way onto it. Also, it may have been obvious, but driving up the outside like I just showed you is typically not worth it. It's much slower than driving up on the inside, and unless you have a very specific reason why it might save you time, like maybe a cork up connecting directly into a cork down which you can invisibridge off, it's not going to be worth it. I've never seen it work in a competition like that. And in fact, it only really looks smooth at all because I'm using a pretty small car here. With most cars it would be a really slow slog to even get up there. Then, a final note on coming in from the top. There's another method that is just as fast as an invisibridge. The problem is that it's luck based. And that is the magic carpet that we saw in episode 2 on speed ups. They're these spontaneous jumps that happen effectively by chance. Since the barrier does curve downward the road, we really don't need that much of a jump to get over it. So it can pay to just start fishing for a little bit of a magic carpet here. When the cork up down is not right after a jump, but rather at the end of a long bridge, a magic carpet is by far the fastest way to get over it. The problem is generating a magic carpet on a flat road. They're much more likely to occur when you're jumping around or landing on 2 wheels or even taking a particularly sportsy corner. On a flat straight bridge, particularly with a slower car, most people end up going with the phasing method. You know, personally I really kinda like the invisibridge trick. I used one to get my first big section spin on track 215, What That Was, by GTA Man. I was driving the Audi from the same DTM pack, and the thing I used to get to the invisibridge, that's called an outside loop cut, and we'll be looking into that next episode. So now to summarize, if you encounter a cork up down and you're coming in from the top, your first start should probably be just trying to jump over it. If there's no way to do that, then it's invisibridge time. No invisibridge possible? Consider fishing for a major carpet. It will usually be just a bit quicker than the invisibridge even, but harder to do. If that's not an option, consider if you can just go around the whole thing. Or, depending on the track, maybe you want to try to go through the wall at the end. And that's basically your last resort. You never want to be driving down the intended way in a freestyle replay handling competition. Coming in from the bottom? Well, you can try going around it with a little jump, or you can just drive up. Your options are, unfortunately, a little limited. That said, if no replay handling is more your thing, I've got great news for you. One of the problems with no replay handling has always been that it is trivially easy to cheat, because you can just use replay handling. But recently, community member Daniel3D has helmed an initiative to develop a no replay handling version of Stunts, which should be about 99% cheat free. And the first test race on this version has actually already started. So I need to go check that out myself, and if you're interested in driving without replay handling, maybe you should too. Just don't forget to also practice your invisibridge. If you're using the track I showed today, the time is 31 seconds, and this is how the track looked. I wish you all a nice rest of your week, and if you're rewatching this in the future, maybe a happy 2028 or something, and I'll see you next time, when we get loopy.